Hi guys, it's Crazy Sam. Welcome back to my channel. So this is another of my videos with some more building techniques. This one I'm focusing on pillars and resource storage boxes and crates. So let's get started. In this, basically I'm going to show you some of the uses of pillars and what can be placed on top. So the pillars can be placed in different ways. There are certain ways you cannot, like if I go across here for example, as you can see it doesn't let me place it even though it's on the edge, whereas if I go sideways on this edge I can place as many pillars as I like. So you could have rows of pillars going down like that. Some people would even build it out on the sides and have it very similar to a wall with something on the outside covering it. So you would have it down the side of it, and then they would use that portion to actually build up a portion of their wall, because it should also, depending on how you're using it, allow you to put components on there which can fortify it, or maybe even have paneling on the outside and then have that fortified. So something like that. And then you have the pillar section on the inside which allows you to place things on it. So your basic way of doing it would be two pillars next to each other, and that would normally fit most of your components. So something, for example, like an ammo maker, advanced ammo maker, or maybe a round producer. You could have it one on one side and the other thing on the other side. It just depends what you want to use it for, based on the placement of the pillars. In addition, this would also take things like maybe your healing station or a generator as well. So there's different applications to it. It just depends what you want to use it for. I would also use it for things like damage amplifiers. I think it's one of the many uses which people do. So you would place, I mean this is just showing you with two, but you could just have a single pillar next to some assault component. So you would have an assault component somewhere, and then you would have your damage amplifiers on it, which is placed next to some assault component. So something like that, somewhere in the vicinity, so that it's now amplifying the damage. And of course you can place multiple on there based on how you want to do it. It's not just limited to one side. If it's within range and if there's enough space, then let me just move this out a bit. So depending on the placement, because even now the placement is not right, so the ones on this side are not really amplifying the damage, so that you just have to play around with. And it's just to show that it's not limited to only that. You could put other things on there like luring devices as well on the single one. So these would also enhance the, as you can see this is 1600 now, a single pillar, because it's enhanced the health of it, whereas your regular pillar is only 400 by itself. But since I put the luring devices on there, the connection bonus is what is making this up to 1600. So that's another application of it. Using a single pillar you can put things like damage amplifiers or luring devices. When it's two of them, it's more efficient for things like advanced ammo makers and generators or round producers and things like that. I mean it's pretty much the same, but if you notice it's slightly lesser space than a generic panel or a utility panel, because on the utility you can just maybe put down It just takes a single generator or small generator, whereas in this space I can put 2 generators and 2 on the other side as well if I want to do it that way. So I could have 2 on here and 2 on the other, whereas your utility will only allow you a single thing, so it can either be one big one, and that's basically it for the utility. So in this one it gives me that option. I'm using less space and I can put 2 of them. So because now it's close to each other, it's not going to let me do it, but I have it here. So I can have a generator on one side and a generator on the other side as well. So it's giving me more functionality for the space, in terms of, you know, rather than having a panel, if I use pillars, then I'm getting that option. So it depends how you want to use it. Again, depending on the placement, when you're creating your base, you just have to figure out ways of doing it. This is just to show you what can be used on it, what can be done with it, but how to use it, well, again, individual preference. So when you're doing it against a set of them lined up next to each other, there are again different ways. You can even put in battery packs on there. So you would have like battery packs starting at the end and going on to the edge. Just add one more here. I think it's one more to complete it. So something like that. So you could have one side having battery packs and maybe the other side having something like generators, for example. So again, if you notice the slots, I can place it up on top or a bit lower as well. I would suggest going a bit lower because this allows me to build over the top of it. You can build on top of this as well. You can see like that. So it gives it a base as well for building over the top of the pillars as well. So if I place the generators a bit on top, then I can't do what I'm doing right there. So you could have it completely enclosed in between, and you could have another complete row, for example, of generators, because they are too big to fit next to each other. But you know, you could put other components on there. And again, like I said, the placement is important, how far away you keep the, you know, you could have small generators, for example, on the next level underneath, and this would go all the way down the end. So if I have to show you here, let me just undo this portion so that gives me a better view, and undo this as well. So with generators, if you're doing small generators, then you would just click and drag them across. This is another technique that I use. But when I do this, if you notice, there's a empty space because it's taking an automatic spacing, wherein I can fit other generators also in there. So how I like to do it is I just drag it across, and then I go to the next space and drag it across again, and then one more time. And now I have the entire row of generators next to each other. So this is actually just for saving time. It makes it easier when I'm doing it. And again, I can do another row at the bottom here using the same thing. Click and drag, go to the next one, click and drag, and then one more time to finish the entire row. So like that. So that's another thing that it can be used for. So this would again enhance your core power. So each generator, and then you, depending on how long you want that thing to go up to, and plus you have the reverse side of it still free to put other things on there. So you could have generators on this side and generators on this side, or you could have maybe like battery packs. Again, depends on individual preference what you want to do with it. So these are just some of the things. And coming to maybe resource storage, in addition to increasing your material storage value. These can also be used to place components on top of it. I'm just making this slightly bigger just to show. So you could have some assault component getting placed on top of material storage boxes. Instead of having like a platform, in certain places you can use this to actually place bigger components as well. This even works with your electromagnetic cannons or even your regular 406. They can also be placed on there. So that's another use. This works with crates as well as with your resource storage boxes. So if you have resource storage boxes, this would also allow you to place things on top like that. So that's another use. I mean, maybe people already know about it, maybe some of you don't know about it, but this is another thing that can be used. I use it quite a bit of times in my bases in certain places where I want to increase the height of the component. So that way it allows me to place components right next to each other, but with a slight height variation, if I want to call it that. So to give you an example for this, let me just do this. So I can increase this and put another layer. So I could have like that, place this on top of it. Let me remove this. And then you could have another component under that. So it gives you that stacked kind of effect. If you notice, it's right up against each other and you have the height. So you could have, gives you more placement options in terms of your big guns especially. This can even be done differently. You could place something else on top. You could place Hellfire looking that way or placing it in the other direction, and then have another setup in the front. It just depends how you want to use it. But this is another of the uses of resource storage boxes. It's not just for filling up empty space. You can apply it for things like this. So I would normally use it for using something like this. So it gives me that look of that stacked kind of, it looks like they're stacked on top of each other, and plus it's adding, like I said, to your material resource storage value. So it's a 2-in-1 kind of effect there, and that is one of those uses. Since I was concentrating only on these two, that is pretty much it for this one. That should cover pillars and resource storage boxes in terms of uses and tips which you can use for doing things like this. I do hope you liked the video. Please do like, comment and subscribe to my channel if you like my videos. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care guys. Bye bye.